Today I want to talk to you about how I got my job or my journey into publishing. It's something that I really want to do because in a way I kind of did these type of videos when I was at university, kind of, you know, what university was like, and so I want to share my publishing experience as well. But this video is going to be all about the bit before publishing. It seems almost blasphemous to say it now, but publishing was never what I wanted to do. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I don't love it. It's just the fact that I work in publishing now, the fact that I live in London now, seems kind of crazy to me, and I would never have thought this is what I would have been doing if you told me 5 years ago. You know, my family are in like social work and NHS and teaching, and not like office jobs really, and no kind of creative industry. So I think, to be honest, as a kid I never really thought about it because it just kind of isn't one of those jobs that you think about when you're young. I think you kind of think about jobs you can see, and for me that was teaching. So the job I always wanted to do was go into teaching. I was completely set on the idea of teaching until my MA really, when I decided I wanted to try publishing. My knowledge and interest of publishing before getting in it, and indeed me actually getting my job in publishing, has all to do with this, my YouTube channel, and you watching this video right now. In 2012 I started a YouTube channel and started to talk about books, and then, you know, YouTube in kind of 2014 and 2013, it was like the prime of kind of BookTube, and YouTube was becoming, people were talking about it all the time, and it was that time that publishers began to take notice of people on the internet and booktubers. I started to receive proof copies, and I started to notice who was sending me the books from the publishing companies and who is actually in the company and what their job roles were. And then in 2015 I went to my first ever book event. I'd have been invited to a couple of other ones, but at the time the idea of me going into London with my anxiety was like, I just don't think I could have done it. But in 2015 I went to a Penguin Classics dinner. Going to that dinner, which was literally only like, I don't know, 10 of us, thinking, wow, maybe I could live in London. Like, I was starting to view London slightly differently. But that idea soon just was kind of forgotten because financially London wasn't really a possibility. At the end of the day, I wanted to be a teacher. While I was studying, I was also working freelance. Not completely, obviously. I did like little projects. I was also a cleaner at university, but I was doing little projects collaborating with publishing houses, non-profit organisations such as Oxfam and the Welcome Book Prize and the Man Booker Prize. So even though I had no publishing experience, YouTube and my Instagram gave me not necessarily contacts, because some of the stuff you do through agencies, but it gave me knowledge of the publishing companies, knowledge of what they were looking for, and an ability to show that I was able to create content. I had marketing tools, I could create a community, and all of these really transferable skills. So even though I wasn't thinking of going to publishing, because I was enjoying collaborating and being involved with publishing houses, I'd kind of built this little CV of work. Then in, I think, May 2017, it was definitely 2017, I saw a thing on Twitter about a graduate internship at HarperCollins, and I went for it. They wanted me to do like a video interview, then if you got through to the video interview there was like more stages, and I sent in my video. You can't pre-record like the video, so they asked you questions and you just have to respond, and my computer at the time was like flashing up but it's flashing up message at me, and so I couldn't see the screen for the question and thought I'd completely ruined it. But I was lucky enough to then get through to the next stage, which I think happened in the July. And then from that interview, I got another offer to have another interview, which involved an interview, presentation, and a project. I got to the last 25 of this grad scheme, but I didn't get any further. Pretty soon after going to the second interview, me and Ben moved to London to live with his parents. This is where I have to point out that my getting into publishing comes with a lot of privilege. When we moved to London, again, because I was living with Ben's parents, I was actually taking time to finish my dissertation for my MA and not stressing myself about getting a job. Towards the end of my dissertation, I was starting to apply for publishing roles, but I didn't get anywhere. Then I started to apply for book selling roles at different stores. That's another privilege of being in London, because if you're in Birmingham, there's like a couple of bookshops, but London, there are loads of like just Waterstones. And I was lucky enough to be invited to an interview that then led to my very first job, my first kind of proper job at Trafalgar Square Waterstones. My advice, if you want to get in publishing and you are struggling to find a job, be a bookseller. Create a side hustle, do YouTube, to sell books. I fell in love with book selling, like I completely loved it. It's still an identity I cling to, even though now I've been working in publishing longer than I was a bookseller. But I was only a temp worker at Trafalgar Square, and I loved it so much that I was desperate to get a permanent position. But like all temp positions, which are always really stressful, I had no idea where I was going. Then after working in Trafalgar Square, I moved to Tottenham Court Road. I was really attached to the Trafalgar Square Waterstones, and even though I loved the Tottenham Court Road store, I don't think I was as happy there. I was on my way into work and I had to get the tube at Waterloo, and the church that is next to Waterloo station has like a really very Victorian dogmatic kind of, the impression that this kind of like, you know, church saying kind of gave me was that, you know, if I want to change something, like I've got to do it, like no one is gonna change the situation but me. And don't get me wrong, I was never brought up in like the position where I expected stuff to come to me, but sometimes, especially because I'm a really optimistic person, I always think like, oh, good things will happen in the end, but in reality, unless you actually go for the good things, they might not happen. And so I started to scroll on Twitter, and yes, I find everything through Twitter, which is another reason I'd suggest going on Twitter if you're looking for jobs in like creative industries. And a tweet popped up about looking for a 6-month internship, and I quickly saw it and sent over my CV and sent over a quick cover letter, and I was then invited to an interview. Since doing the grad scheme, I did get 2 interviews based off being a part of the grad scheme, but they weren't really my thing, and I didn't get them. And sometimes you know when actually the job just isn't right for you, because at the end of the day the job has to be right for you in the same way that, you know, your employer has to think that it's right for you too. Before like this interview, I'd done like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interviews, a presentation, a group project, to get to the interview that ultimately led to my internship. And then I started interning at Harper Impulse and Killer Ease at HarperCollins, which were 2 digital first imprints. I remember so clearly the day I found out I got that job, because it was snowing in London, like really heavy snowing, and I have pictures of me and Ben like completely covered in snow, really thick snow, like you could hardly see Big Ben. It was insane. And I remember kind of being a bit sad, thinking I hadn't really got it, and then I got an email saying that they'd offered me the place, and then that evening Ben found out that he got his current job as well. So we actually had a career change at a very kind of similar time. I was completely thrilled and couldn't believe my luck. I just remember being so smiley, and it was the best thing. I then started the internship, which led to me getting a permanent job. My internship did not guarantee the job. I worked really, really hard and actually fell in love with it so much, and that's why I'm at HarperCollins now at one more chapter. I hope this video has been enlightening even a tiny bit, because I'm very aware that on social media life looks a lot easier, and to be honest, I was really, really lucky and managed a job really, really quickly, but there were different stages within me kind of living in New York and doing my degree and then working in publishing. And obviously on my YouTube channel it was pretty much like, oh, I'm now working as a bookseller, oh, now I'm working in publishing. And I wanted to give you an insight into the process and maybe a couple of you might be looking to also start this process. And if you ever need any advice or help or anything like that, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I'm more than happy to look over CVs and cover letters and all of that stuff, because I really want to help get someone else's foot in the door.